This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on enhancing connectivity through inland waterways. The participants are Shishir Singha, economic analyst, and Rajesh Lake, AIR correspondent.
Shishir, what is the importance of inland waterways in India?
So first of all, we need to understand that we have 111 national waterways, and out of those numbers, we are just using 24. Even among 24, most of them are used for the cargo transportation, not for the passenger transportation. So for the first time, we are seeing one of the longest cruise, not just in India, but globally, has been deployed on this route, covering almost 3,200 kilometers, 27 river and river joints, and starting from Varanasi and reaching Dibrugarh via Bangladesh. So certainly this is going to boost the passenger transportation through the waterways. But what is the most important is that out of 111, we are just using 24. So there is an opportunity of using more than 80 which are lying unused. And there are certain reasons why they are not being used or what are the problem in not using them. And one of the biggest problem is that the depth of the river for facilitating the mechanized boats to move from one point to other point. So this is one aspect. The other aspect is that if you take the economic rationale behind using the waterways, if you take the cost benefit analysis, it is almost 3.5 times cheaper than the road and 1/3 of the railway freight. So that means it is very, very cost effective. The only problem is that you may not have the same speed like what you have for a road or what you have for the railway. But still I believe that if you take the overall economic cost, that speed can also be adjusted against that.
So what is the significance then in the national interest of the inland waterways?
The most important is that first, of course, the cost is there. And I can give you example of one power company, which is a PSU, National Thermal Power Corporation, NTPC, is using waterways to take coal from one part to their plant. And their cost has come down drastically. This is one. Then automobile company is using to transport its automobile from one point to other point. Their cost has come down. One beverage company is using the waterways to transport its product from one point to other point. So companies have started using. Now the real issue is that are we in a position or do we have enough infrastructure to facilitate these companies? There is a real challenge. And unless if we are not able to provide the infrastructure, it will be very, very difficult to promote these kind of movement of goods or passenger.
Shishir, you were mentioning about the infrastructure development must be taken by the government. So what are the steps taken by the government to improve water transport in India?
The first and the foremost important thing is the government is doing is providing enough depth on the riverways for the movement of mechanized vehicles. I can give you one data. We have almost 20,275 kilometers of waterways. Out of that, only 5,500 kilometers are used. What is the reason? Because the depth is not available for the movement of the mechanized. And even the depth is available, it is only within a small stretch. So you need sufficient depth and of course the width also on riverways for the movement of ship from one point to other point or even for the barrage from one point to other point. So one infrastructure is of course how you provide the depth. The second one is the jetty. So many of the places where we have seen a development of what we call as the jetty or the dry ports, like in Varanasi we have seen a good development, like in West Bengal we have seen good development, like in Prayagraj we have seen good development. So those kind of infrastructures are also being developed. The third infrastructure we need is the maintenance facility, what you call as the MRO. MRO like what we have available for the aircraft, we need the same thing for the ships also. So these are the things which we need for the movement or for the development of waterways. The good thing has happened with this Ganga Vilas cruise is that it has also been able to develop infrastructure project worth 1,000 crore rupees in number of states, like the jetty or the maintenance and the other thing. So that will also help the movement of passenger as well as the goods from one point to other point. So these are 3-4 things which the government as well as the private sector should do to promote waterways in a bigger way.
Shishir, World Bank study shows that 1 liter of fuel can move 105 ton per kilometer by inland water transport against 85 ton kilometer by rail and 24 ton per kilometer by road. Similarly, the carbon emission per ton kilometer is 32 to 36 gram in the case of container vessels against 51 to 91 gram for road transport vehicles. Don't you think our emphasis should be more? We must use this renewable energy in inland waters aggressively so as to achieve zero emissions.
Certainly, and you have very good number which you have given about this carbon emission. I will add one more thing, that's the pilferage. Like when the coal is transported through the road or through the rail, there is always a possibility of pilferage. But if you are transporting through the waterways, there is a least possibility. And that is why the power company is using waterway in a bigger way. Now coming to the renewable energy, whether we are using just a diesel for transporting goods or passenger, can we use CNG? Can we use the other sources? Of course, the experiment is being done, and I am sure that in coming next 5 to 7 years, we will see more and more CNG-driven vehicle on the waterways. The only problem is that you need to have the depot or what you can say dispenser for CNG across the riverbed. Then only it will help the ships to use this thing. Otherwise, they will mostly focus on diesel, and that is not going to help the carbon emission thing or reducing the carbon emission.
So we both agree that the proposal to push inland waterways as a preferred mode of transportation ties in with India's vision of promoting sustainable growth and also the Prime Minister's vision of making India a zero carbon emission country by 2070. Moving forward, the inland waterways sector comprises river systems, as you said, canals, backwaters, creeks and tidal inlets. And you said the government is working aggressively to develop these. However, time factor is something that needs to be taken care of because time is something that you have to deal with when it comes to inland.
That's a very valid point because the transportation through railway or transportation through road, if you take the time of reaching from point A to point B, is much lesser than when you are transporting from waterways. Now the problem is that if you have a longer distance of better depth, and of course you also have to keep in mind the ecological system of water because there are a lot of aqua is also available. So we need to understand that they should not be caused any kind of harm or any kind of damage. So you cannot have a very high speed on the waterways because you have to consider the aqua thing and also the ecological thing. So that will always be a key point whenever we will discuss the waterway.
This also helps in the movement solution at a 30% lower cost than railways and a 60% lower cost than roadways. The neglect of this mode of transportation has, if I'm not wrong, correct me, has been reversed since 2014. And the government has done a whole lot of stuff to make it a mission to reinvigorate the inland waterways system. Now, the cargo movement has reached an all-time high of 108.79 million tons, and it has registered a 30.12% increase year on year. And there are hubs. Don't you think we should have the hubs being developed? Varanasi being one, because you mentioned that. So, to build on this success, hubs should be made. What can be done to develop such kind of hubs?
Yeah, because in many of the areas you have a main river and also the tributaries, and those can be connected through that. Now, suppose that cities like, say, Prayagraj, cities like, say, Patna, city like, say, Bhagalpur, these are the cities which have not seen much of the industrial development. So, if we can promote some kind of infrastructure waterways in these cities, I'm just talking about one river, there are a number of rivers. So, if you take these cities and promote infrastructure like jetty or ship maintenance and all those things, certainly people will be able to use that. Now, the real challenge is how to provide the infrastructure. The infrastructure not just at one point, but point A to point B, and also between point A to sub-point A, sub-point B. I'm talking about the hub and spoke model. Okay. So use the main river for transporting between one big city to another city, and then use the canal for transporting from one mega city to a smaller city in the state.
What about interventions to incentivize the development of the inland waterways sector?
What I will say that since the river is the issue which lies with the state government, so you need to have a better cooperation among various state government to develop the waterways. It is not possible that central government will say we will do this thing and one particular state government will not support it, then the entire thing will not work. So you need a better coordination among various states, number one. Number two, if we can say it's a centrally sponsored scheme fully funded by the government, then it will also help. You don't have to ask the state government to provide money for that. They will say, we don't have the money. So if the center can provide the full fund for the development of infrastructure for the waterways in one particular state or interlinking the two rivers, that will certainly help in a bigger way. And in the due course, they can be asked, the states can be asked to go for the recurring expenditure. The first investment should be done by the center and the recurring by the state government. That is the possibility, that is the model which will help in developing the waterways in a bigger way.
So how does this fit into the Prime Minister's Gati Shakti National Master Plan?
See, Gati Shakti is what? Gati Shakti is talking about the logistic coordination between...
Transformation through transportation spirit in India.
So logistic means what? At one particular point, one particular company wants to set up a company, but it is not getting access from that point to nearest port or nearest railway station or nearest national highway. There the waterways can help in a way. So, if we talk about the Gati Shakti program, waterways is the critical factor in those states which are having a good length of river, but they are not able to exploit it. So, in that way, it will help in developing the industrial scenario in that particular area, because that will provide point-to-point connectivity from the plant to the consumer.
The priority development of National Waterway 1 was undertaken through the Jal Vikas Marg projects, which includes Arthaganga, and they will give an economic boost of 1,000 crores over the next 5 years. Now, besides giving the trade benefit, it also is going to, in a very large way, develop and boost public-private sector capability and also skill development.
And at the same time, just can you add one more thing, that is the employment.
Yeah.
Because when you are developing an infrastructure, if I just take the example of tourism only, tourism is one thing which provides employment not just for the goods but also for the services. So it's a job multiplier. Similarly, in infrastructure, they are also the job multiplier. For every one direct employment in the manufacturing sector, there is a possibility of 2.5 indirect employment in the services sector. So just see how the job multiplier situation can be created through the development of waterways in those areas where we have not seen much of the industrial development because of one region or the other region. Take the example of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has all the auto plants at the coastal region. Why? Because for them it is very easy to move their products through the sea route to various other places. In state like Bihar or in state like Uttar Pradesh, we do not have sea. But can we use the river for the same thing? That is the possibility available. Number one, the infrastructure. Number two, industrial hub. Number three, the employment. So these three things are possible through the development of waterways.
Shishir, with India's growing population and increasing traffic, the development of inland waterways will not only reduce travel time and ensure a seamless journey of people and goods and other facilities, it could also be, as you said, cost-effective and bring down pollution levels. Can we holistically design a policy that factors in safety, infrastructure support, interstate coordination, and integrate with other transportation modes?
That's a very critical point. I can give you an example of Varanasi. Varanasi, where the jetty has been developed, the dry port has been developed. From there, the connectivity to the road is very easy and it's very convenient. So that is one model we have. Now the only issue where we have some kind of challenge is the coordination between two states. Because two states are, if having two political parties, the kind of political linkage or the kind of political will certainly impact that. That is one thing which will have some kind of impact. But that's a very good idea. And I will add one more thing to that. How to preserve the ecology of the marine or the marine ecology, how to preserve that.
Okay, Shishir, the government is committed to creating solutions appropriate for the demands of the future. The development of inland waterways is a step in this direction to take development into the heartland of the country and ensure an environmentally responsible and economically sustainable mode of transportation that can bear the load of the economic growth. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on enhancing connectivity through inland waterways. The participants were Shishir Singha, Economic Analyst, and Rajesh Lake, AIR Correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.